The Hershey's incident. On Halloween night in 2011, what began as a simple evening of costumes and candy in a modest home on Winchester Avenue, Chicago, quickly transformed into a nightmare no one could have imagined. After returning from trick-or-treating, a 55-year-old man discovered that his stash of Hershey's chocolate had vanished. His frustration boiled into suspicion, and he turned on his 49-year-old partner, convinced she had taken it. What started as a childish argument over missing candy spiraled out of control. Voices rose, accusations flew, and soon the house filled with chaos. In a desperate moment, perhaps driven by fear as much as anger, the woman hurled a dinner plate at him. The plate struck the man squarely in the forehead, opening a deep cut above his eye. That wound, later visible in his police mugshot, only fueled the fire burning inside him. With blood streaming down his face, the man's rage consumed him completely. He grabbed a kitchen knife and, overcome by fury, launched a brutal attack. The woman screamed as he struck again and again. Neighbors heard the disturbance, the shattering of glass, the yelling, the panic, but it was Halloween night. Many assumed the sounds were just part of the evening's festivities, part of the staged chaos that came with it. By the time police were called, it was already too late. Officers arrived to find the woman collapsed on the kitchen floor, gravely wounded. She was rushed to Cook County Hospital, where doctors fought desperately to save her. For nearly a week, she clung to life, but on November 5th, her injuries proved too severe. The man was arrested shortly after, charged with felony homicide. What began as a childish Halloween quarrel, a missing bag of chocolate, ended in senseless, irreversible violence. A single moment of anger had destroyed 2 lives forever. Costume malfunction. On October 31st, amid a vibrant Halloween carnival filled with flashing lights, loud music, and dancing crowds, a 51-year-old man joined the celebration wearing a homemade costume crafted from burlap and straw. The streets pulsed with laughter and color as he moved among thousands of partygoers, smiling and carefree. But in an instant, that night of joy turned into pure horror. While taking a short break from dancing, the man reached into his pocket to light a cigarette. As the lighter flickered, the small flame caught the edge of his hood. Within seconds, the fire spread, racing across the dry material. His entire costume erupted into flames. The burlap and straw, both highly flammable, burned violently, and the man's attempts to tear the costume off only made things worse. The melting fabric clung to his skin like molten glue. Around him, the crowd remained oblivious. Many of the revelers, drunk and disoriented, assumed it was part of the show, a fiery stunt or clever prank staged for the crowd's amusement. They cheered. Some even filmed. As the blaze intensified, the man staggered through the street, engulfed in fire, his arms flailing in agony. Only when his screams grew louder than the music did a few sober witnesses understand the truth. They rushed forward, trying to smother the flames with jackets and pouring bottled water over his body. The smell of burning fabric and flesh filled the air as panic spread. When the fire finally died down, he was barely recognizable. Medics arrived within minutes and transported him to the nearest hospital, but the damage was far beyond repair. Despite doctors' efforts, the man succumbed to his injuries. A night meant for laughter and celebration had turned into tragedy. A haunting reminder of how quickly a moment of joy can become catastrophe. The Hello Kitty case. In Hong Kong, a 23-year-old woman fought to survive in a world that had never shown her mercy. Orphaned young, she grew up amid hardship and fell into a cycle of addiction and abuse. She eventually found work at a nightclub in Tsim Sha Tsui, one of the city's red light districts, where she met a 34-year-old triad boss notorious for his cruelty and short temper. He visited the club often, and over time, their encounters became routine. One evening, after one of his visits, he accidentally left behind his wallet. When the woman found it, she noticed it contained 4,000 Hong Kong dollars. Desperate to care for herself and her child, she took the money. But the mistake did not go unnoticed. When the gangster realized his wallet was missing, she panicked. She returned the cash, begging for forgiveness, but his fury was unrelenting. He demanded she pay him 10,000 more as interest, a debt she could never hope to repay. A few nights later, As she returned home from work, there was a knock on her door. On the other side stood 3 members of the triad and a young woman, the mob boss's girlfriend, barely in her teens. They claimed they wanted to resolve the matter peacefully. Instead, they dragged her out of her apartment and drove her to a run-down flat on Granville Road. That would be the place of her final suffering. Over the next month, the woman was subjected to unthinkable torture. Her captors beat her with metal rods, hung her from wires, burned her with melted plastic and candle wax, and rubbed chili powder into her open wounds. Every day was a blur of pain and humiliation, designed not just to punish, but to erase her humanity. Outside those walls, life in the city went on as normal. Inside, the apartment became a chamber of horror. After nearly 4 weeks, her body finally gave in. She died from her injuries, alone and broken. To dispose of the evidence, the gang dismembered her body, placing her remains into plastic bags. But the nightmare didn't end there. In one of the most disturbing acts imaginable, the mob boss ordered her skull boiled clean and stuffed inside a large Hello Kitty doll belonging to his girlfriend. The young girl, forced to live in the same apartment with that grotesque reminder, began to lose her sanity, night after night. She claimed to see the woman's ghost standing at the foot of her bed, weeping silently. The haunting grew worse. She couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and was tormented by visions that followed her even into her dreams. Finally, broken by fear, she ran to the police station. Witnesses said she was shaking uncontrollably, repeating the same words over and over. "She won't stop crying. I see her everywhere. Please, make her stop." Her confession unraveled the entire crime. The authorities quickly arrested the 3 perpetrators, who were later sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 20 years. The girl was placed in protective custody and underwent psychiatric treatment. Even after the trial, reports suggested she continued to suffer from nightmares and auditory hallucinations, echoes of the woman's cries that refused to fade. These stories are not campfire tales or horror fiction. They are chilling reminders of how real-world cruelty can twist moments of normal life into something unrecognizable. Halloween is meant to be frightening in fun, not in tragedy. So, when you celebrate, stay aware. Keep your friends close, act responsibly, and double-check your candy. Stay safe, and have a hauntingly happy Halloween.